Hello and welcome to Eye on Sun Valley. I'm Jody Zarkos. Joining us today is author Charles Brandt, author of I Heard You Paint Houses, the true story of Frank the Irishman Sheeran, and closing the case around the disappearance of Jimmy Hoffa. The book has been turned into a major motion picture, The Irishman, directed by Martin Scorsese and starring Robert DeNiro, Al Pacino, and Joe Pesci. It premiered at the New York Film Festival last month. And Charles, you were on hand for the film festival.
Yes, I was. Netflix flew me and my wife Nancy and put us up in a wonderful hotel off Central Park. And we attended the festivities, including the world premiere screening of what is called as a film, The Irishman. Our book is I Heard You Paint Houses, but we also go by The Irishman.
Right, because you have the movie tie-in release coming out in a few days. It should be out by the time this airs, and it is dubbed The Irishman, correct?
There it is.
There it is, in living color.
But we also have the classic edition of the book called I Heard You Paint Houses, and that will remain in print for those who want that book.
So New York is an electric city to begin with. What was it like? I mean, I look at the director and the crew of The Irishman. It's a veritable murderer's row of acting, to throw a little tribute to your Yankees, your hometown Yankees.
Oh, no, not my Yankees.
Not your Yankees?
Oh, God, no.
All right, we're ixnaying the Yankees.
I was a Brooklyn Dodger fan as a boy and grew up having no regard for the Yankees.
So, well, we won't go into the playoffs right now. That might be sad for you then.
Yeah, yeah.
What was it like? What was the electricity like surrounding the premiere?
Well, it was an electricity that I have seen on TV, on news shows, but I never participated in it. And to walk down the red carpet and have cameramen asking my wife and me, stop right there, and trying to get better shots of it. And then a group of, from my family and friends in New York, where I was born and raised, situated themselves at the bottom of a short flight of stairs behind a rope, or a ribbon, whatever you call it. And when Nancy and I started heading down those stairs after coming through the red carpet, we hear this big whoop and holler, and we thought that Marty Scorsese had walked in, but no, it was that gang of cutthroats cheering Nancy and me, organized by a former resident of Sun Valley, Leslie Little.
That must have been a great feeling.
That was fun. We were hugging and laughing and kissing, and then we went in and took our seats. We had great seats.
And give me your review of the movie.
Oh my God! It's a Mona Lisa of a masterpiece. It's a Raphael. It's unbelievable. I mean, of course I'm biased, but when you think about it, I should be biased in favor of the book, which I am. But this movie, as a movie person, I grew up loving the movies. And this movie just, as I mentioned, is a masterpiece.
Speaking of the movie and the book, you said that you held out the rights to the book until Scorsese approached you. Why? How did you know he would come around to you? And after making so many mafia movies, did you think it would appeal to him again, to go down that road again?
Well, I don't know if I mentioned this to you, but I was a homicide investigator, having over 55 homicides that I either tried to a jury or investigated. And you learn to follow hunches.
Right.
You learn that even though hunches are often hard to justify, in this case, I had a hunch that both Scorsese and De Niro would love this book once I'd finished it. And other people agreed with me. My wife agreed with me. And so pretty quickly in 2004, when the book first came out and was in the stores, I turned down 2 bona fide offers from genuine Hollywood people because I was expecting that somewhere down the line, somebody would give this book to either De Niro or Scorsese. And that's exactly what happened. Another script writer who's not involved in this, a famous scriptwriter named Eric Roth, gave the book to Bob De Niro. And Bob read it, loved it, and gave it to the screenwriter, the Oscar-winning screenwriter Steve Zalian, won the Oscar for Schindler's List. And anyway, Steve Zalian and Bob De Niro brought it to Martin Scorsese. And that started the ball rolling. That was the summer of 2007.
It's really amazing, and I can't wait to hear more about it. We'll be back with author Charles Brandt right after this on Eye on Sun Valley.
Better food, better price, better service. Atkinson's Market, supporting local farmers since 1956.
I moved out to Idaho 4 years ago, so I met a lot of people and I really, really like it here. You know, if you don't have something like that that brings you into other people's lives, it takes a long time to get to know people.
And we're back with author Charles Brandt. Charles, you spent a lot of time on the set of The Irishman. What was that like for you, and what was your role?
Interestingly, part of the film was done in a place called Ridgewood, New York, not Ridgewood, New Jersey, a section of Queens. And I sat there in a director's chair looking around at Ridgewood, where I lived till the 6th grade.
Seriously?
I roamed those streets as a little Brooklyn kid. And that was a thrill for me to be there, like I'd come full cycle. So those were the times I was on the set. But most of the time, they dealt with me long distance. I was in Idaho. I've got my 7-year-old grandson here and my daughter and her husband. And so I hurried home after we were done with the script. I did mention, I don't know if I mentioned it to you, but they had me as part of the script team. Steve Zalian, Bob De Niro, Marty Scorsese, his producer Emmett Tillinger, and your pal. And we would meet in Marty's house and go over the script. And then I'd prepare my notes and come back for another meeting. And when I was done, and when they were done with me, I came back out here to Idaho, and they assigned a woman named Mary Ann Bauer, who was a researcher, to me, in that they would be working on a scene, they'd have a question, and they would say, call Charlie to Mary Ann. Mary Ann would call me, and she said it was as if you had the phone in your hand. You would answer the phone instantly. And I said, well, I did have the phone in my hand. Are you kidding? This is so much fun, you know?
Right.
So I worked on that, and I was actually working on one portion of this script 2 days before the wrap party.
Really?
Yeah, Nancy and I, my wife and I, went to the wrap party in Manhattan. They flew us in, and we were mingling with some pretty serious Hollywood people.
So let's go back a little bit to you secured Frank Sheeran's early release from jail, and then, I mean, that journey with Frank Sheeran consumed so much of your life. Did you ever expect when you were embarking on it, it would unfold that way?
No. I did not expect it at all. I got a call from a member of the Philadelphia mob, the Angelo Bruno crime family, played in the film by Harvey Keitel. Frank Sheeran was the prime suspect in Jimmy Hoffa's disappearance. He had been profiled in the New York Times as such, profiled in Newsweek as such, and in Wilmington, Delaware, where I was practicing law at the time, he was our local gangster. We didn't have another one. And he was the head of the Teamsters Union in Wilmington, Delaware. And we knew each other a little bit. I didn't care for him, and he tried to beat me out of a fee once, and I fired him as a client. But here was a more straightforward representation thing. And that was get him out of jail, charge a certain fee, I got him out of jail. I had been an interrogator. I taught interrogation to cops. I taught cross-examination to other lawyers. And I was, at that point in my career, doing medical work. And so he had medical problems, and they wanted him out. I got him out, and he said to me, you know, I read your book. I had written a book about interrogations that solved major crimes.
Okay.
And he had read my book, and he said, I'm tired of being written about in all the books on Hoffa. I want to tell my side of it, and I want you to tell it, because you wrote that book, The Right to Remain Silent. So my anticipation, to answer your question, was to have one meeting with him. Okay, I'll go up and see what you have to say for yourself. And that led ultimately to 5 years of recorded interrogation. He had very tremendous amount of remorse for his killing Jimmy Hoffa. He didn't care about the other killings that he'd done, basically didn't care. But killing Jimmy Hoffa, who he adored, he believed in Hoffa as a union man, and he was ordered to do it because he was the only one that could get close enough to kill Hoffa. And the mob likes to do it nice and easy, where they're 18 inches away from the back of your neck when you are killed. And so I knew that he had something on his chest that he wanted to get off it. And interrogation is a process from establishing trust to lightening the load. And so you establish trust, and you get information that leads to other information. And you also point out to him, now see, doesn't that feel better in your chest? Because there really is a physiological reaction to getting something off your chest. I taught that to cops and to other trial lawyers. And that physiological reaction is what Sheeran would respond to.
So you're helping him carry the load.
Helping him get it off his chest and feel better.
And so in the process of this, did you feel imperiled yourself, being privy to these secrets that nobody else had heard?
The very first time, yes. We met in his apartment, and we didn't get, and it scared him as much as he told me. He was shocked. I wrote it up, I showed it to him. I left an important piece out because it was too scary for me. It's in the book. And it's in the book, The Irishman, in fact. And anyway, we called off we had been together for 5 hours that night. We called it off, and we didn't get back together again for 8 years because Russell Bufalino died. Billy D'Elia, who took over for the family for Russell Bufalino. Billy D'Elia became a government witness, and so he wasn't there to scare me anymore.
Right.
But he didn't like me, so I was concerned about him. Joey the Clown Lombardo, the boss of the Philly family, would call Frank Sheeran regularly. And I'm sitting on the couch with Frank, and here's Joey the Clown calling. Well, Joey the Clown ended up going to jail for life. So I was freer to talk about some things that I had not been free to talk about. And we ended up adding an extra 57 pages to the book because I had so much corroborative material. The murder of Crazy Joey Gallo, and corroborated by a New York Times editor who was in the Italian restaurant in Little Italy called Umberto's Clam House when Frank the Irishman walked in and blew Crazy Joey away. She positively identified Sheeran as the killer.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And you sat down with this man and had a relationship with him, and did you grow to like him eventually? You said you didn't like him at first.
No, good point. No, I couldn't stand him at first. But, and we had a few words, stern words. But as time went on, we absolutely became friends. I'll tell you about a phenomenon that most people don't even know about, and that is you can be trying a murder case, and you got a murder defendant. And let's say it's a long case, 9-week trial. As the case hits about the halfway point, you're on a personal relationship with that killer. You're on a personal relationship with him on the breaks. You're even making jokes to each other.
Right.
So now you have to be careful that nobody's smuggling in a weapon for him. You know, you still have to treat him as the enemy that he is, and have your investigators, you know, be sure, keep an eye on him and search him and whatever. But there are some of my best wisecracks I got off in a capital case that had 4 men on. When I left the office, I had 4 men on death row.
Well, I guess your best wisecracks are going to come from wise guys, huh?
Yeah, I guess.
So your relationship with a murderer brought you to your relationship with this gentleman and The Irishman, which is going to be on the screens November 1st. You have the movie tie-in version of the book coming out on this week, and you have a book signing coming up and a little talk at the Hangout in Hotel Ketchum.
Yep,
Thursday, October 17th from 4 to 7.
correct.
And what's the most interesting part of being at a book signing and hearing people's reaction to your book?
Well, I'll tell you, interestingly, I have done a number of book signings in Russell Buffalino territory, northeastern Pennsylvania, Scranton, Wilkes-Barre, and the people who come to those book signings have tremendous stories to tell me about their knowledge about Russell Buffalino. Many of those anecdotes I added to the growing, it's an expanding book.
The epilogue, yeah.
Yeah, and the epilogue, and then the conclusion chapter of 57 more pages after the epilogue. And some of that includes anecdotes that I would hear from people. I can tell you a quick one if we have the time.
You sure?
Okay, so a young man is standing there signing the book for him, and he asks me, he tells me that, you know, when I was a young guy, I was a bit of a problem. I was a rough and tough teenager, and my father had a furniture store in Wilkes-Barre. And Russell Buffalino came into the furniture store and said to my father, everybody in this town wants to buy from you. They want to buy furniture from you. I encourage them to buy furniture locally and buy it from you. But your son has to be controlled. And if you don't control your son, we're all going to stop buying furniture from you. The kid said to me, my father got on top of me, sat on me, never let me out of his sight, and now I have my own business. And I said, what kind of business is that? He said, well, I have my own funeral parlor.
Oh.
True stories, God is my judge. And it's in this, you know, the conclusion chapter.
That's amazing.
So anytime I had a book signing in northeastern Pennsylvania, I brought my pad and my pen, and ended up getting more than I was giving.
Always the author.
Yeah.
Charles Brandt, thank you so much for sitting down with us.
My pleasure.
And I hope we see you at the Oscars on February 9th.
Hope I'm there.
I bet you will be. Thank you so much for joining us today on Eye on Sun Valley. I'm Jody Zarkos.